So therefore we just get by and get our degree and yeah. So and I can't say my colleagues at Peruvian. I went back to teach at Peruvian. I had to quite a struggle. It was quite a struggle. So yeah, but that's part of the issue. How do you deal with that sort of situation? There is a certain lack of discipline and perseverance and sort of quick look for quick fixes. And I see this in climate research all the time. All of this thinking, I can see this in climate research all the time. People are not taking the time and trouble to actually look at all the work that has been done for the last 150 to 200 years. Not taking the time and trouble to analyze the data or to sort of go to different places which impact their climate change impacts and actually document what is going on. And it's been 15 years since I started doing this work. I can't really say that we made any advances in the last 15 years in how we are responding to climate change. Nothing they understand. I mean, few people have done a little bit of work, but we haven't influenced the public sphere. Let me just add a few more things, unless anyone has any questions. So that's the preface. It's a long preface, I recognize, right? But this whole the problem is not so much the science. The problem is how we approach knowledge, what we do with knowledge, how we understand knowledge, how we deal with different strands of knowledge that are coming are there, right? I mean, like even in climate change, I mean, there is a tendency, I think, for people to sort of, go for legitimacy. I mean, there are global reports that come, and you mentioned IPCC, that's one of the sources. But that doesn't, I mean, there are problems with that. The globalized knowledge is really not applicable. And as they say, they themselves say they don't apply at the local scale because much of the analysis is at a larger scale. They say that if you come down to 2,000 kilometers, don't trust us. Sri Lanka is like 250 kilometers. But there is a whole cottage industry where people are taking the IPCC reports and saying this is what's going to happen to you. So what you see is that they say there's going to be a half a degree rise in temperature, there's going to be more rainfall in the southwest monsoon and in the northeast monsoon and so on. It's actually conflicts with what we observe on the ground. And because we have not sorted out in careful detail as to what exactly are going to be the implications of climate change. And for me, I would want to look at, the things that we know for certainty is that temperature is rising. And it's rising at the rate of about close to 2 degrees in 100 years. And for many people that may not seem like a big deal. I mean, it's probably true, but for certain ecosystems like mosquitoes and coral reefs and frogs and so on, they have evolved to fit into a certain micro niche. So if you displace their comfort levels even just slightly, they may be highly vulnerable to these changes. So that's one side, temperature. And temperature, again, you want to look at it, there are different changes during different months. Right? And so depending on the changes you have in different months, the implications for even disease, malaria, dengue, whatever else, changes. Right? Similarly, I think there is the question of like, is the maximum temperature, which is the daytime temperature, is it rising faster than the nighttime temperature? It turns out to be the nighttime temperature is rising faster than the daytime temperature. Okay. So, and all of this varies by place. So there is different changes in different places, right? So I think you can take that chair. That was my chair. So you have different changes in different places, in different months, and different times of the day. All of these things are going to affect the outcome or the impacts on say on different types of frogs. So one frog will be in a certain way, and in another type of frog in a certain way. I mean, Rohan Petia would say that the frogs are dying in a way that you cannot explain, and it may be tied with the fact that there are dry spells in some of the wet areas of the country. So now you see that's a highly detailed description of what is happening in one place, right? And so you need to. So this is one of the things I think about. You really need to know to the best you can as to what's happening in detail, and it's not hard work. These are you talked. You are doing data mining. This is really, just a little hard work, but you can get these answers in no time. With a little work. So like that, there are stories about what I can tell you about rainfall, sea level rise, drought. So that is extremes, droughts and floods. So there are a whole bunch of stories, but there's a lot of knowledge we need before we start saying this is what's going to happen to Sri Lanka. On the other hand, like you have a whole industry and millions of dollars going into climate change adaptation in Sri Lanka, but it's not informed by science. We don't know what we are adapting to. Are we adapting to more rainfall or less? We don't even know that. So the main point there is I feel that knowing about in detail about our natural environment and also the people. I mean, you said that in your introduction that you knew about the details of the Nook and Cranny, I think. Now that sort of knowledge is needed to deal with the sort of disaggregated way in which climate change is going to affect each and every one of us. You cannot take the whole of South Asia and say this is what's going to happen, because you get it wrong and you will malign it. So this whole nexus of why are we doing that? I mean, we don't do this in any other field. I mean, many other way you do it, which is you prescribe based on without a diagnosis or a inadequate diagnosis. I mean, medicine, whatever, you don't do that. When you get the diagnosis right, you see what the problem is. And at the same time, we celebrate the fact that India is very good at science and information technology. Come on. So there is that whole set of issues around knowledge, legitimacy, who has the power of legitimization, whether it's outside the country, is it some governmental department, is it through different modes of discourse about how we understand nature, different people understand nature in different ways. So you can say, okay, look, this is prescribed in some religious texts that the world will end in 2012, or there will always be cycles, or there's an all-knowing divine who has a prescription for us, so we just follow. So that sort of various modes of thinking is all there. So, but this whole business of how we understand, right, and what And also what experts are allowed to get away with. What I mean by that is that to what extent do we trust the experts on this? Right? And by how should we legitimately trust them? I mean, I can tell you one thing, the experts are not doing their job. So, and they are sort of falling back on authority. They're saying, okay, let's go to the IPCC and read about what they are prescribing, but those models are no good.